eat, but I think whenever we can talk about flowers, it's really fun. So on your handout, now do you all have the handout? Okay, I'm going to follow basically the sequence of the handout, and I'll just add to it. But I think it'll be helpful if you're taking notes or not. At least it'll be a nice guide. So um, I love this first slide. Lunch is served. All those flowers are edible, but you probably won't want to eat them all at once. So what I'd like to do is when Rosalind, and I've got most of my information out of Rosalind Creasy's um, Edible Flower Garden. And for this book, she interviewed Alice Waters, the owner of Chez Panisse, the founder of Chez Panisse. So what I'd like to do is just start out by reading a quote from Alice Waters that I think puts edible flowers in perspective. So Rosalind asked her, how do patrons react to flowers on their plate? Alice replied, the flowers are a fascination. People really focus on them and are really curious. Some people refuse to eat them, but about half will taste them readily. I like to serve them in such a way that they're tasty and accessible to people. A large flower by itself is intimidating. Hi, I'm just quoting Alice Waters on flowers, so welcome. And Fraj will get you a handout to take notes from. Yeah. So anyway, so to continue, so she likes to serve them in such a way that they're tasty and accessible to the palate. And that's basically what we'll talk about today. And she said, a large flower by itself is a little intimidating. So she likes to incorporate Johnny jump ups or nasturtium petals in salads or serve them in ice cream or butter. So she incorporates them into the meals rather than making a bold statement like this. So what I'm going to do is just cover the flowers by family. When I teach plant identification, I always teach by family, because if you're looking at a flower and you have actually no idea what this is, if you can narrow it down to the family, you have a much better chance of ultimately identifying it. So, and all the plants in the same family have similar characteristics, so that helps. So we'll start with the mint family, and this is the Agastaceae funiculum, and I don't think we have one here, but it tastes sweet. Now, all of these also, the flavor of the flower, I mean, and this makes sense. As soon as I say it, you're going to say, of course. The flavor of the flower is going to taste very similar to the flavor of the leaf or the smell of the leaf. And it's the same with this. It's going to taste a sweet anise-like licorice or root beer. So it has kind of a wonderful taste. You can use the young leaves and the tiny petals of the sweet flowers. And you can add the petals to melted butter, serve them over mushrooms. The complex flavors, of course, it's more of a licorice-like flavor. Add dimensions to ice drinks, custard, ice cream, sorbets, and pound cake. And you'll find that a lot of these flowers are incorporated into butters and cream cheeses and ice creams and pound cake. And I think pound cake, because it's so innocuous, that it'll take on the flavors of other things. So let's go on to basil. We all know basil, and there are, Pat, I'm going to scoot by you just for a second here. No. We all know basil. But by the time basil, by the time basil flowers, it alters the taste of the leaf. So you don't want it to flower unless you're growing it for the flower. No, you got to do it right. So what I would do is, this hasn't started blooming yet, I'd pinch this off. I'd also pinch these are going to be flowers. I'd nip them in the bud. The only one, I know, and this is strange to even talk about it. The only basil that doesn't bloom is this one, and it's a kind of a tall. This is the one I use. Most basils are frost tender, so we treat them as annuals. This one is not as frost tender, so I use it year round. And this is Basil Pesto Perpetuo, and it doesn't flower.
It doesn't flower. So how does it propagate?
Oh, it's going to get to about 3 feet tall. Yeah, that was great. It smells really good too.
But how does it propagate then?
Oh, you can by cuttings.
By cutting.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So let me go back. So that's basil. You're going to find with most of the herbs that if you let them flower, it will alter the taste of the leaf. So you have to kind of decide what you're gonna emphasize. Okay, let's see. Bee balm, the Monarda. Again, this is in the mint family. Almost all of the mint family, square stems, opposite leaves in the arrangement. You can see that right here. And then usually pretty tiny flowers marching up a stem. So with the bee balm, which is also a great pollinator plant, you can use it in place of bergamot to make tea as a flavor similar to Earl Grey tea. Tastes like spicy and mint. Use sparingly in savory dishes, green salads or cream soup, sprinkle over mild fish, or add them to apple jelly and baked goods such as pound cake. Okay. And then we have hyssop and lavender. I'm sure you're more familiar with lavender, but let me just cover hyssop really quickly. There are caveats on some of these, and there is with the hyssop. It should be avoided by pregnant women and by those with hypertension and epilepsy. So the small flowers pack a powerful punch and have a hot, spicy, and thyme-like flavor. They go well with chicken and French beans. So I will, at the end of the talk about the hazards of poisonous flowers. So, these are gorgeous and we can eat them all, but there's also 10 times as many that we don't want to eat. So then we go to the lavenders. There are many. Well, there's French lavender, English lavender, Spanish lavender. There's this wonderful variegated, I love this variegated lavender. There are all kinds of lavenders, and each of them is used differently, either as, for oils or to put into ice cream or to put in savory dishes. So what I've given you here at the bottom of the page is, well, let's see, I guess did that end up on that same page? A link to Morning Sun Herb Farm. How many of you have been there? It's in Vacaville. Okay, Eileen. Okay. Morning Sun Herb Farm specializes in lavenders and all kinds of and they actually have a tomato tasting in the fall. And on their website, they talk about each of the lavenders and specifically how to use them and what to use them in. Because some are sweeter and you'd put them in ice cream, and some are a little more savory or have too strong of an oil presence. So that's a great resource for herbs. And then there's marjoram. I think we have it here. Pat, I'm going to slip by again.
No, I should move.
No, oh no. No. Good. Well, here's the oregano. Let's see. Well, I guess we don't have marjoram here, but we'll go ahead and talk about, I don't know if we have mint. Now that I'm here, let's see.
Is this?
What do we have there?
Should be mint. It's a salvia, but
oh, good. And salvias are in the mint family. That's perfect. Nope, that's fine. So there's no oregano here, which is fine.
Here it is, right here.
Oh, good. So look at how tiny the flowers are on all of them. Square stems, if you can see the stems, with all the mints, including the marjoram and all the mints. The flavor of the flower is going to be the same as the herb. And there's lemon mints and all the whole range of mints. The flower is going to taste the same. So you can just I can't do that. You can and just sprinkle them around. So that's what's great about the mint family is the leaves are little and they act as a really nice accent.
Talking about basil, when they blow the flavor of the food, that isn't necessarily.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so you have to decide. Well, and then let one of these flower and then just taste the leaf because there's going to be a lot of different stems with flowers. Taste the leaf, and if it tastes okay, still use it. And usually, in the in mints, they're going to spread. So I always keep my mint in a pot. Otherwise, they're going to take over the garden. So particularly the mints.
Even if you put the pot on the ground, you have to be careful because the roots can go.
That's right.
Thank you, Eileen. You're right. Yes, they really want to live. Okay, and then there's rosemary. And here is one of the rosemaries. Pat was just talking about her rosemary was 6-7 feet tall, and they do get big. This is the best culinary rosemary. This one is barbecue. There's barbecue, blue spires, and Tuscan blue. Those are the 3 most popular of the upright rosemaries. They're the best for the leaf for culinary uses and for the flowers too. The others are okay, the shrubby ones and the ground cover ones like Huntington carpet and prostratus. They're okay, but these are really the best. They have the best oils in them and the most vigorous leaves. Yeah, barbecue, which is this one, blue spire, and Tuscan blue. Oh, say more about that.
Rosemary is an herb. Herbs are really available to us, like a little nip, and that's great.
Mm.
And you only suggest one,
Thank you, Susan.
2 or 3.
It's very refreshing. Thank you. Poor Annie's. We're going to have these plants stripped before we're gone today. Okay, that is great. And then we have summer savory, Satira hortensis. Wanted to go back to the officinalis for just a second. It's important when you're looking at edible flowers that you're precise in the botanical name. The common name is shared by so many, like daisy. There are hundreds of kinds of daisies. But so if you use the botanical name, you're going to be safe in terms of knowing exactly what you're getting. So I wanted to tell you about the officinalis in rosemary. All the rosemaries are Rosmarinus officinalis, and then there are varieties after that. But in the rosemary group, they're all officinalis. And the word, anyone know where the word officinalis comes from? Okay, I'll tell you. In the 13th century, Dominican friars set up a pharmacy or infirmary in Florence's Santa Maria Novella convent and started cultivating medicinal herbs. The infirmary was called an officina. And that's where all through the Middle Ages, that's where everyone went to the officina, where the monks have set up with all the medicinal herbs. So that term, when it's used, so Linnaeus took that term, officina, when he ascribed botanical names to plants. And every plant that you see that has officinalis in it as a species name, means that it's used either medicinally or culinarily. And we're going to see several others as we go through here. I love that idea. And so then the cetera hortensis, the Greek or Latin word. Oh, we have trains.
And what about
Hortensis means of the garden. So a lot of times the species will describe a characteristic of the plant or someone who discovered it or the location, like Camellia japonica. Those camellias are native to Japan, or Wisteria sinensis. That wisteria is native to China. So the names of our botanical plants can tell us a lot. So on to sage. Not all the sages are edible, but all the ones that are Salvia officinalis, and there are about 5 or 6, tricolor, Burke Garden. There are several of the Salvia officinalis that are edible, and we use them as herbs. When we get our little jar of herbs, it's one of the Salvia officinalis varieties. But there's one more, and it's this guy. I love pineapple. And this is the pineapple sage. This is Salvia elegans. This one's honey melon. You can see this wonderful tubular, the hummingbirds love this one too because of the shape of the flower. So the flowers are edible and the leaves are edible. And this is honey melon, and then this is just a straight Salvia elegans. I use it in gardens all the time. It's a great shrub, about 3 by 3. And of course, the flowers taste like pineapple. So you can use where are my salvias here? You can use the pineapple sage in tea, cold drinks, tropical fruit salads, wherever you would use pineapple, jellies, jams, and salsas. And then we have the thymes, and that's what all these little guys, most of these guys up here are the different thymes. And all the thymes are edible. And thyme is one of those seasonings I use in everything. It's a fairly neutral, but gives depth to. I put them in all my soups and casseroles, wherever I can. I put thyme, and so sprinkling some of the flowers into, particularly at the tops of soups when you're ready to serve them, would just be really fun. Now, we're going to go into the Asteraceae family, or the composite family, the daisy family. But before we do that, there's asterisks on your list. I'm going to read to you what they refer to. Only the petals of these composite flowers are edible. There are a few exceptions. The pollen of the composite flowers is highly allergenic and may cause reactions in sensitive individuals. Sufferers of asthma, ragweed, hay fever should not consume composite flowers and may have extreme allergies of ingesting any flowers at all. So because we're kind of in an uncharted territory, at least for most of us, about eating flowers, you want to start small and see how your body reacts and then go from there. It's the same, with a young child, introducing new foods. You always want to be careful when you start. So same with flowers. But we all know the calendula. Let's see, I think I need to advance this. No, the calendula is right there. Look at the species name, Calendula officinalis. So these petals have been used for centuries for edible. And I know a lot of us, when we grow in a vegetable garden, we'll always throw calendulas in. So there's a lot of new hybrids. Usually, we see them bright yellow and bright orange. I can't find the bright orange anymore. It's all these softer colors that have come out, but all the petals are edible on them. And you can use the fresh petals in salads, soups, souffles, muffins, biscuits, omelets, or dry them and use them in soups and rice dishes in the winter. And then another one that's familiar to us on the top is the chamomile. Of course, we've all heard of chamomile tea. And it tastes like a faint apple flavor. Good as a tea, both fresh and the dried petals. And you can sprinkle the petals. It's fun to sprinkle them over salads, especially ones with apples, because the chamomile brings out the flavor of the apple. And we have the chrysanthemum. Have any of you smelled the chrysanthemums? They kind of have a pungent, spicy flavor or smell. The same with the petals. And this is the chrysanthemum cornarium. It has a slightly bitter flavor and pungent and a peppery taste. So you can use them in soups, teas, to flavor vinegar and butter. And then there's the cornflower. I love this. The corn, Centuria cyanus, blue. The cornflower we have here is actually not blooming. It tastes, and the common name is bachelor's buttons, so I think we all know it as bachelor's buttons. The taste is sweet to spicy and clove-like. So wouldn't that be fun to sprinkle on a salad or somewhere where the blue would be a wonderful contrast? And then there's the dandelion. Now look at this. Taraxium officinalis. So we know that now. Susan, do you know of a medicinal use for the dandelion? That is interesting to use the root. That's good to know. So the root of the dandelion is used for medicinal purposes. And if you fry the very young buds, they fried in butter, they taste similar to mushrooms.
It's funny if they're bitter, because a lot of bitter things are poison. That's a sign needed if they're bitter.
And that's a very good point. But these are definitely edible. And the picture on the right, so this brings up another point. I was playing tennis a couple weeks ago, and I went to get a ball near the edge of the tennis court, and there was a dandelion plant, and it was blooming. And I thought, oh, I could eat this flower, right in the middle of a point. But that brings up a point, and then I thought, no, on the tennis court, there might have been dogs running around this tennis court. At least tennis balls have hit it for sure. So that's another thing. If you're going to forage or look for plants, make sure you know what else has been around that plant. Particularly if you're going to, I know there was a wonderful talk in the spring on foraging, and you just want to be careful the environment that you use. And like, for instance, at Annie's Annuals, I think they do a topical spray once a week. So I would actually buy this plant in bud and then wait until it blooms when I get home before I eat it. So just be aware of where your plants are. So yeah, thank you, Susan. Pop in whenever I slide through something that would be really good to know about. Okay. Where are we? We're at the English daisy. How many of you have been to parks, in the last 2 or 3 months where there's a wonderful swath of grass and then the English daisies have popped up everywhere? They're wonderful. And I look at them and I think, oh, I could have these. And then I think, no, it's a public park. I probably better not. So, but the Bellis perennis has a wonderful, the flower has a wonderful tangy, leafy, slightly bitter again taste. So you can use it as a garnish on salad, soups, and steamed vegetables. And then the marigold. So this is the Tagetes tenuifolia, and we have it. Actually, I don't think we have it here, but so the one you want is the Tagetes tenuifolia. So you have it on your list. Spicy again to bitter. I bet a lot of the composites have more of a bitter taste. Use sparingly, and marigold butter sprinkled over broccoli. And I wanted to tell you my favorite plant that's actually not on the list is this one. This is a Tagetes too. This is Tagetes lemonii, Lemmonii. And you know what? Oh, I'm going to pass this around. Just kind of brush your hand through the foliage. It
Oh
is,
my gosh.
isn't it wonderful? And it's going to get to about a 3x3 shrub, and beautiful yellow daisy-like flowers on it. The reason I love it is the fragrance, and it was also discovered by the lemons. So you'd think with lemonii as a comment that it would be lemon. No, it's named after the couple that discovered it. The lemons. They discovered it on their honeymoon. So they honored the lemons by giving the species name to the plant that they discovered. They discovered a lot of plants, but this is my favorite. And it's,
Do you recommend growing it in
you can, and if you have room, I'd grow it in the ground.
Yeah. How big do they grow?
About 3.5 by 3.5, and it's going to bloom mainly in the fall and winter. So it just adds a wonderful pop of color in the winter. Yeah, isn't that fun? We have a good friend who has it in their parking strip, and a woman and a child came by one day and apologized to Sarah, the woman whose garden it was, and said, "I'm really sorry, my son fell in the shrub one day, but he came out smelling really good." So it's a great plant. Okay, let's see, where are we? Okay, so the safflower, or the Cartharanthus tinctoris, that is another poor man's saffron, and without the pungent odor or strong flavor of the real thing. So it can be used in cooking as a sub for saffron, the top one. And the flowers are a source of red and yellow dyes used to color dairy products, liqueurs, and confectionery. So, which brings up another point. A lot of times flowers can be used as dyes, not only for food, but for fabrics. And that's a whole nother realm that's really, really exciting. And then there is the sunflower. I was just thinking, Susan, did you have anything? Did you want to say anything about the safflower? No? Okay. So then I grew up with them in West Berkeley. So they're very, very familiar. It's taken me right back. Sunflower, every part of the sunflower can be used. The leaves, the petals taste leafy and slightly bitter, but you can lightly steam the petals to lessen the bitterness. And that's true with everything. By steaming, a lot of the bitterness disappears. The unopened flower buds can be steamed like artichokes. The greens can be used in salads, or sauteed like spinach, or baked as chips like kale. The leaves can also be steeped to make a healthy tea. Have you ever done that? Oh, you have to try that. The stalks can even be eaten. Similar to, I know, who knew? Stalks can be eaten like celery, or you can slice them and have them be holders for peanut butter, or a carrier for dips. So we got to grow sunflowers. And then chives. I don't think, we don't have any. I was going to bring my pot of chives and I didn't. So the chive flowers, you'd use the same as chives. They're going to have the same oniony taste. And the garlic chives are going to have the same garlicky taste. So chives are, I have a pot of chives on my front deck, and I just keep snipping off the chives. But then I have some others that are flowering right now, so then I can just pull off the little white flowers. Okay, did you know that your citrus, how many of you are growing lemons or any other kind? Oh, see, you're all growing citrus. Did you know the flowers are edible? Aha. And the flower is going to taste, so if you have a lemon, like a Meyer lemon or Eureka or Ponderosa lemon, the flower petals are going to taste similar to the lemon. If you have an orange, the same thing, or a mandarin. So when you get home, you have to try them. You can use them for citrus waters and whipping cream, ice cream, lemonade. Each citrus varies in flavor, so you want to sample them first. So, and then we have carnations, and I just noticed there was one of the women carrying this around. They're right over there. Carnations and pinks are also edible. And this one doesn't smell very much, but have you ever smelled carnations? They have kind of a really spicy, the flowers taste the same. It's just kind of that wonderful, spicy, peppery clove-like flavor. So you can chop them and mix them in butter, use as a garnish in cakes, salads, soups, or throw them in a punch bowl. And then we come to, I think, one of the most useful plants. Oh, there we go again. Borrego officinalis. So borage is also a wonderful medicinal plant and edible. I love, there's one, this is totally off topic, but the borage, if you grow it next to tomatoes, will repel the tomato hornworm if you ever get tomato hornworm. So you want to grow borage there. The only problem with borage is it does reseed. So if you have one plant, other plants are going to appear. They're easy to pull out.
Very easily.
Yes, yes. So you've grown borage. Do you eat the petals? Do you eat the flowers?
Green sauce. And so that's one of the, it's like receptive herbs that, along with sorrel, salad burnet, and parsley, and chives.
Oh, that sounds great. Pardon? Oh, fabulous. Speak a little louder. What did you say?
It's called Frankfurt.
Huh.
But it's part of Germany they use it.
Oh.
But you take 7 different types of herbs. Chervil, chervil, sorrel, parsley, chives are the 4 elements. I also put forage, salad.
That sounds
You
great.
mix it with yogurt.
Uh-huh.
Mix it with a little bit of mustard, and then you mix it together. Make sure the herbs are chopped super fine. That's the fun part, because while you're chopping them up, the smell of the herbs
Oh.
right up here.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, that is great. Thank you. So the flowers, you want to pick out that middle, that little middle, kind of the stamens in the middle of the borage, but the flowers are totally edible. And then again, the leaves. And besides that wonderful mix, you can make tea out of the borage leaves and the flowers.
They're good pollinators. And then they go and pollinate.
Brilliant. That is brilliant. I have a picture of a bee on it. Bees are really attracted to blue. I'm glad you brought that up, because thank you. Yeah, it is a great pollinator, it's perfect in the vegetable garden. Yeah. And then pineapple guava. I must confess, this is my very favorite. And if you grow it anywhere,
We have a tree of it.
uh-oh.
We have a tree here.
Well, it's not going to be safe for me.
Or me. Or me.
How many have tried the petals on the pineapple guava? Okay.
I make jelly out of the fruit.
Oh yeah, the fruit.
Oh, that.
Describe the taste of the petal to me. Yes. Yes. What's great about, what's 2 things that are great about this besides the flavor. they're usually high enough you don't have to worry about someone having sprayed around them. So if you're walking through the neighborhood, there's one on Hopkins Street in Berkeley. You can pick the petals off. The other wonderful thing is if you just pick the petals off, you're not in any way inhibiting the fruit production because the stamens and the ovaries and everything are still there. You're just taking the petals off. So be on the lookout, and maybe Pat, at the end, maybe Pat will tell you where the one that's growing here is.
It's just that big tall tree over
Okay.
there.
Okay.
We'll look around and look at the bottom, and it says pineapple.
Okay, great. Yeah, and the fruit, obviously the fruit is wonderful too, but okay, and then with the hemerocallis, the daylily, every part of the daylily is edible. The flower, the leaf, the bulb. About 35 years ago, San Jose Mercury News had a whole page on their food section on how to prepare daylilies. And I wished I had kept it. I didn't, but I was so stunned. I just remembered it. So you can use, if you take out the stamens in the middle and wrap that whole, the flower petals in kind of a soft cheese or seeds, and then saute them. They make just a wonderful, wonderful surprise for a dish. Scented geraniums. Let's see. Do we have? We don't have any scented geraniums here, but we all know scented geraniums. So scented geraniums are actually pelargoniums. They're in the Geraniaceae family, but they're pelargoniums. And what Rosalind Creasy says, she likes to candy them. Of all the flowers that she has, they're the most successful. So you can see you could use them in decorations. But also the pelargoniums, there are rose pelargoniums, lemon pelargoniums, there are all kinds of different scents. And then the flower petals pick up that same scent. So you'd end up with, you can just sprinkle them on salads, use them as a garnish. And I've never have anyone candied a flower before? I never have either. I think I'll have to try it. I'm sure it's some kind of, you probably heat up kind of like a syrup, a sugar syrup, and then let the petal dry. But I haven't done that. One of us will have to try that. Okay. Johnny Jump Ups, the viola tricolor, as we know, is edible. Every part of that flower is edible. But it does contain saponins, so it could be toxic in large amounts. So, with all of these, just use them sparingly. And then what Alice Waters says again, we'll quote her couple of times. We use fragrant violets in late winter. We candy them and then use them to garnish sherbets. And we fold fresh violets into ice cream just before we serve it. So you can do that without the expense of going to Chez Panisse. And then I just have a few pictures of incorporating flowers into other food. But I wanted to stop and talk about nasturtiums for just a second, because every part, again, of the nasturtium is edible, from the flowers to the leaves to the seed pods. And again, from Alice Waters, I'm crazy about nasturtiums too. Empress of India, which has a dark red color, has a spicy, peppery flavor. And I know Annie's carried Empress of India this spring. I haven't seen it right now, but it'll come back. And she also enjoys using the Alaska variety in salads because the foliage is so beautiful. It's a variegated white and green. I also use nasturtiums to top soups, salads, and pizza. For example, smoked salmon pizza. Just put them on top at the last minute so they won't wilt. Sounds awfully good to me. So let me just go through a few, and you can see that she's put them on all these. Well, this is not Alice Waters, but Rosalind Creasy has put them on all these hors d'oeuvres. And now they kind of travel along the ground. They were actually my mother's ground cover in Albany, so in the backyard. So they will take over. So just make sure if you're going to use them, what else has been around them before you pick them to eat them. No, I'm sorry. I didn't even think about covering it until the last minute. And then I saw this picture and I thought, we got to talk about nasturtiums. Because I think of all the edible flowers, that's probably the one we all know about. Yeah. Tulips are edible. I mean, who knew? Isn't that gorgeous? So a leaf of endive, and then a tulip petal, and then a soft cheese. The only problem is you probably wouldn't want to get the tulips at Trader Joe's because they've been obviously they've been greenhouse grown, and you don't know what kind of sprays have been around them. So you probably want to grow your own tulips. But I think this is great. And then here's just a baby shower petal salad. We're mixed in with the greens. And here is the, there's right up there and on the other side, you can see the leaves from the Alaska nasturtium, that wonderful variegated leaf. And then there's the little rose petals are also edible. And then you see the Johnny jump ups and other petals. So I think salads make a really good setting for edible flowers. And then what Ross did when she was doing this grilled swordfish, she kept the flowers on the rosemary stems. So as she grilled it, the rosemary sprigs stayed on there with the flowers. So just kind of a nice way to do it. And then this last one is a Mardi Gras salad. And just how wonderfully unusual with the calendula petals and the Johnny jump ups. And I think there's some borage in there, and just kind of adding them to things. So that's the end of the slides. But I wanted to go over poisonous plants, but I bet you have a question first.
Sorry, going back to the daisy. Are Shasta daisy?
I don't know. Wouldn't that, and they're starting to bloom right now. Yeah. There's a whole huge side of a house on the corner of Eunice and Spruce in Berkeley right now that is covered in the Shasta daisies. I don't know, but the internet, who knows all, would tell us. Yeah. Thank you. That is a really good question that I'm afraid I can't answer. Okay, before we end, let me just quickly go over, and you have it on the handout on your third page, the poisonous plants. So you want to, as I mentioned before, you want to positively identify the plants, botanical and common name. So buying them either at a nursery or growing them from seed yourself is probably the safest in terms of sampling flowers, or going to a good friend's home. Don't rely on birds or animal choices of edible flowers. They may be toxic to humans. We grow our tomatoes and potatoes and other vegetables on our front deck. We have no backyard, so we grow them on the front deck in containers. The other day, the deer walked up 9 stairs to get to our deck, stripped the tomatoes and the potato plants.
Oh my goodness.
But tomato flowers, the flowers on the tomato plant are poisonous, and the leaves on the potato plants are poisonous. So I hope the deer are okay. But so you can't assume, like tomatoes, I mean, we're harvesting tomatoes all the time, but the flowers are poisonous. So you can't just assume. Some plants like pokeweed are only poisonous at certain times of the year. And then Rosalind warns that when you first taste a new food, only eat a small amount, and we've covered that because there are different allergies. And I'm actually allergic to arugula, which is very strange. It took me a long time to figure that one out, particularly because it's in a lot of salad mixes, but very allergic to it. My son is allergic to kiwi. So you just never know what your body might react to. So start out slow. Heating or cooking in water removes many toxins or unpleasant textures. For instance, stinging nettles. Stinging nettles are an amazing herb, and Susan, I'm going to ask you about it because it's been used since ancient times. So how is it used?
Well, it's eaten like spinach. And in natural medicine, we call it the aspirin. You just use it for everything: bone health, energy, menstrual problems. I mean, it's like the vitamin C of the natural world. Stinging nettles, but you have to be really careful when you're dealing with the fresh. Delicious cooked before you cook it. Use gloves. If you buy it at the farmer's market, they'll have tongs. The seller, so they dig your hand into it. Sorry.
Great.
So delicious.
Huh. I have not tried it, although we sell at the Merritt College plant sales. Stinging nettle is always sold. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. The Merritt College plant sale. So you never want to use any flour to garnish that's not edible, that you know that's not edible. And especially with children, make sure they know that some flowers are edible, some are not. For instance, on peas, we love to grow the sugar snap peas and the snow peas and the English peas, and the distinctive pod. On sweet peas, the flower, when you let the flowers go to seed, they also have a pod and they're poisonous. So you don't want children to assume one thing. So I'm always careful with clients that if they have children, I suggest that they actually not grow the sweet peas, the ornamental sweet peas, because the children might accidentally assume that they're edible too. So you just have to be careful. And just the ninth, because a plant doesn't make you sick to your stomach or cause your heart to race, doesn't mean that it's safe. Some toxic reactions take time to manifest themselves. So, in a way, I'm sorry to put the caution at the end, but it's important. And so then I've listed some of the most common poisonous plants and parts known to be dangerous, just so you have this as a reference too. So are there any, I know you all have experiences with parts of all of this. This is great. Are there any questions or any comments that you'd like to add to the party?
Actually, I do have a question about the dandelion.
Yes.
So I know it's an amazing plant and you can use it for what you say, but many gardeners see it as like a weed. So do you recommend like growing, the dandelion, letting it just sprout in your garden?
You could, if you want to eat it, I'd have it sprouting in an area that the public's not going to walk by. And then probably what I do is make sure that you take the flowers before they go to seed, because the dandelion is going to be dispersed by the seed. It's so amazing. The seeds have a little hook on them, and so they'll float around, and then they'll all of a sudden attach to something and grow a new dandelion. So, yeah, just be careful about the seed dispersal. Yeah, yeah. Any other question, Susan?
Question that's related. That gets confused when people are pulling it out.
No. Yeah.
When I read the article, I was thinking,
Oh, I think it might have a thinner, maybe have a thinner leaf rather than the. Yeah. Yeah, I think with the dandelion, the dandelion has more of not a dentate leaf, but more of a softer leaf. And I think the other one has more of a strappy leaf. Are you nodding your head there?
I'm looking because I think I've seen both.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
that was
And
great.
yeah, they are just a little slightly different. I thought both were dandelion. But one is slightly different. One has its shape.
Let's see if I can go back to dandelion.
so do you think the other variety is poisonous? Or something?
It's the preferred. Forever.
Right, right.
But the other one, it was so long ago, and I didn't have the art about. It was by the Nickel brothers.
Oh, oh, yeah.
And then I've seen one with
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen
Right.
it, yes.
I don't think that is.
Yeah, this is the one we're talking about with the, it's a kind of a softer leaf and it has the,
No, the other one is much taller.
Taller, yes.
the stem.
Now that I'm looking at it, I buy dandelion in the market.
Oh, that's
And
right.
It's a smooth leaf. It's not forked. It's not
Interesting.
so. Oh, big mystery.
Back to the internet.
Yeah, back to the internet or the produce department at Berkeley Bowl or Monterey Market. Okay, well let's have a drawing for this guy.